For many of you out there, writer's block can be a significant challenge, and it's one that it's not always easy to overcome. And you're going to look out there online and you're going to see a great many tips that people are going to offer you. Some of them are going to be good, some of them maybe not so good, some of them are going to be good, but they might not be as practical or they may not work for you. So for each person, it's going to be important that you find what's going to work best for you. I'll talk a little bit more about writer's block and maybe one method that I use to overcome it next. So I'm one of those people that I don't often get writer's block, and part of it is because I jump around to different stories when I feel like I may run into a roadblock where I need to step back and think about a little bit more where I want to go, what direction I want to go, or do I want to scrap the story and just say that it's just going to go into the unfinished pile. And that does happen from time to time. But it's important for people to figure out what's going to work best for them. So I told you about one method that I use, which is to jump from one story to the next and maybe come back to the story that I started that I ran into the block on. Now, for others, it may be something different. So one other technique that I use when I run into writer's block is I go and read a little bit more than what I usually do. Now, I have reading goals that I set for the year, and I've already, for example, in 2019, here late in the month of October, I've already exceeded my reading goals for the year. Now, they were probably to some people pretty meager reading goals, but they worked for me because I do keep a pretty busy schedule with all the things that I do. My regular 8 to 5 job, actually it's more than 8 to 5, but I'll just say 8 to 5 just for the record here. Plus all the other extracurricular activities that I do and the volunteer work that I do. So my time is pretty busy, but I do find time to read as much as I can. And I find that reading is good inspiration, especially if you're reading stories, of course, as you would expect, that are of a similar interest to what you're going to probably be writing about. And sometimes I like to read things that are a little bit different. So I might look at some historical fiction, for example. Sci-fi is not necessarily my thing, but I have tried to read that from time to time, and I've had some enjoyment from reading some novels that are outside of my comfort zone in the sci-fi range. But whatever it is that you find that you enjoy reading, embrace it and use it as inspiration. Think about the ways that writers are telling their story. Think about the techniques that they're using. Match the writing style that you're reading against your own writing style to see what you can learn from it, good or bad. There may be some things that you're reading and you're thinking, oh, that's not really something I would do. But it may be something you're reading, you might think, wow, I like the way that this writer did that, the way that they told this story, the way that they use dialogue in their story to make things work, the way that they avoid info dumping and do it by weaving the information that they need you to have within the story in an effective way that's so smooth that you don't feel like you're being dumped on. And so reading other authors and learning how they do things by reading them while at the same time hopefully enjoying a good story is a good way to relieve your writer's block. At least it is for me. So those two techniques that I talked about today. One is, of course, reading. Looking at authors' stories that are similar to what you like or authors with writing styles that you appreciate is one way that's going to help you. Also, if you run into a block on one story, start a different story. Some people work on more than one story at a time. That would be me as one of them. Others don't. But if you run into trouble with a story that you're currently working on, jumping into another story may be a good way to give you a chance to take a step back from the story that you've been working on, that you've stalled on, getting some inspiration, clearing your mind with another story that you might be working on, either parallel or that you might start when you run into the block. Could help you to come back to that original story and to be able to work through the issues that stopped you and to be able to finish and endure through to the end to finish that story. So think about those two techniques that could work for you. They work for me, but they may also work for you as well. And if they don't work for you, you may have some techniques that do. And if you do, share them with me, because I'd be curious to hear how other people overcome writer's block so they can get themselves back on track toward finishing that novel.